So I won Albion Colossus in a competition a while back. I downloaded it, I checked it out, created some demo tracks and some videos, and quite enjoyed it. But then I largely forgot about it and haven't really used it since. It just didn't make it into my regular arsenal. It just felt like there wasn't enough of a reason to kind of pick it up again. It felt like it was lacking that kind of wow factor or that inspiration factor. However, now Spitfire Audio has released an amazing free update for Albion Colossus, and I think it makes it probably like 10 times better. With EVO Grids, the eDNA synth, and performance tweaks, I'm definitely giving it another go. So here is the update, the what's what on Albion Colossus. Hey, my name is Steve and welcome back to Command Shift New. In case you missed it earlier this year, Spitfire Audio released Albion Colossus. This is an aggressive, distorted, hyped up orchestra with lots of really cool controls, and it was kind of aimed for modern film score composition. As a fan of epic scoring myself, I was definitely keen to check it out and thoroughly delighted when I found out that I'd actually won it in a competition. I tested it out and I did a review on it, link above and below for that if you'd like to check it out. But while I did enjoy the library and I definitely thought it was a great all-in-one sort of solution for epic scores, it did feel like it was leaving me wanting more. But fear not, because I think that is all about to change. Spitfire Audio actually emailed me to let me know that there was this big change that was coming, this big new update that was going to bring so much more to Albion Colossus. While Spitfire Audio isn't paying me for this video and hasn't dictated anything that I need to say, I was provided with the update a few days earlier so that I could check it out, basically to see if I like it. And spoiler alert, oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. I definitely do. There are 3 things that need to be checked out, and make sure you stick around for the 3rd one because that one will save you a ton of CPU power. So let's get stuck into it. Once you've updated Colossus through the Spitfire Audio plugin, you'll actually see a new drop-down menu. And that is right here, this mode button, which now has 3 options. A very subtle change, it's easy to miss if you didn't know what you were looking for. But this is actually now fantastic because this isn't just changing between 3 different views, it's sort of like changing between 3 different instruments. So the standard view, of course, is what I've looked at before on this channel, but if you jump across to Synth, we can see that it's based on the eDNA system that Spitfire Audio have used in other libraries. In fact, if you've ever used an Albion library before, you probably have seen this sort of thing turn up. It's very similar. It's 2 different textures blended together and there's a lot of control over those. In a way, it was kind of a surprise when Albion Colossus didn't come with this built in, but I can kind of understand that. All the other Albions have been in Kontakt, so that's an entirely different sampler, whereas now they're building their own samplers. So they obviously had to develop this all from scratch again, the same system that they've used in previous libraries rebuilt into their new platform. But I definitely appreciate that because while I'm definitely a huge fan of Kontakt and I like things being in the Kontakt library, I'm starting to see the benefit of a dedicated app. It feels much cleaner and much easier to use than their original eDNA systems in other libraries in Kontakt. By contrast, this is Albion's Solstice, for example, which it runs, you can see, on a very similar system, this kind of left side A, this right side B, but the controls are just much higher in resolution, much easier to understand, and you can really see what's going on. I do like that change. Let's check out some sounds. You have a wonderful array of different sounds, like I can scroll through here, it takes ages. I certainly haven't been through them all yet, but there are some fantastic ones out there. Let's just pick some at random. That's just a few of the sounds, and I'm not going to go through a lot of them right now. You can dive in and explore them yourself. But here's some of the cool features that you can do inside this synth because you've got all those controls there. Side A and side B allows you to sort of pick the sample that you want to work with. So you can scroll through here and pick any of the samples from the Colossus library. Quite simple, it just swaps it out. So you just click on one there, and it's now playing that one instead. Each side has its own envelope, high passes and low passes. You can control things like the warble of the pitch or volume. Like if I just up this a little bit, you'll hear some pitch fluctuations, which, you know, can be kind of crazy if you go overboard with them, but a little subtle vibrato or even just some wild sort of sound design stuff if you want, it's all there, able to be done. And this slider at the bottom here is attached to the mod wheel and it will slide between the 2 sides. So you can pick a blend between the 2 or move seamlessly between them. You can even have that done automatically, so you don't have to do it yourself. With the mod wheel, you could have it oscillate. If I turn on the oscillation mixer and let's just play a note. So very useful there, not just for film score composers. There's definitely some electronic styles that are going to take benefit from this type of system. If I just change this to a sawtooth, for example, really cool, and much easier to sort of visualize and understand, I think, than the Kontakt versions. There's so many controls in this though, and I'm not going to dive into all of them, but I just want to show you this. If you dive into the mixer here, you've got so many different options. It's baffling, and it's not just what you see here. If you select on different options here, you get a whole bunch of different effects. This is basically the Bay A effects. They only affect the A side of the synth sample, and Bay B, of course, on the other side. And then you've got some auxiliary effects that are sends. They send a little bit to delays and reverbs and so on. And then you've got your master effects all up, and all that's getting summed, of course, to what you're hearing. So on our master effects here, if I want a flanger, I can click on the flanger and it will show me the flanger controls. I can turn that one on and let's hear the sound. Really cool. Now, of course, plenty of people love to kind of throw on their own effects and design their own thing, but it's wonderful that you've got such awesome effects straight there. You don't have to worry about having to have other plugins. Again, it's that one-stop shop sort of thing. This library has it all if you need it. Over here as well, it's even got a gate sequencer that kind of allows the volume of the note to be adjusted. So I've turned this one on, and it's not going to do anything to begin with. It's just doing its thing. But if I bring the depth in, maybe about halfway, you can hear the steps are starting to impact it. If I actually slow that down or speed it up, of course, I'm playing all of this with this oscillator mixer on. Let's just turn that one off so we can really just hear the step sequencer. So you can really hear the cool control that this could have. Let's bump up the depth, and you can even smooth it in, smooth it out a little bit. So wonderful options there in the eDNA based synth section now. Now the other new view, or the other instrument, is the EVO Grid, something else that's come back from the other Albion libraries. I've always loved this system in other libraries like Albion Solstice or the London Contemporary Orchestra Textures. Fantastic use of this system. So if we change from synth now to grid, you'll see a very familiar sight if you've ever used any of the EVO systems before. Basically what this one does is it gives you control of the whole keyboard, and you get to pick what groups you want assigned to groups of notes. For example, right now all keys are assigned to the same layer. Each one of these horizontal rows here is a different layer of samples. But if I start changing them, let's say to this extended one at the top here, you can see the range being updated, a new color. If I just do that to the next group, it's the next group of notes, sort of from that note up to the next note, and so on. There we go, from D now up to the next note there. So if I put half of my keyboard or so in that range and the other half over here, if I play some low bass notes, we're going to have one sound compared to the chords of the other sound. Absolutely awesome. But because it's a grid and you can just pick whatever you want, you could even randomize it. You get some really interesting combinations. I love this little feeling lucky button. It's awesome. You just click that one and it just kind of looks like it randomizes everything. Really cool combination of textures. And I love how they've also blocked them off into different sections. So you've got sort of 4 groups and you can pick 4 different groups. So if you just keep clicking these buttons, it keeps randomizing it, but within that one group, which I think is really cool. So that's the sort of D-res sound there. If we go to wavering, one of my favorites, definitely. Extended, granular here as well. So really cool, and you can go ahead and explore as much of that as you like. And of course over here on the effects you've got some effects just for the general instrument. All of these work with the dynamics and the expression, and this one of course over here to select what you want it to actually control. All of this is a lot of control, but there's one more thing I want to talk about. So the last thing I want to chat about is this new feature called Eco Load. It's sort of a behind the scenes feature that helps speed up the library. It's a performance tweak in many ways. Colossus is a CPU hungry beast. It really is. It takes up a lot of RAM space in order to load up all the samples onto it. If I move back into this standard one and allow it to sort of load this anthology patch, you can see the memory already climbing, and it's going to continue to climb. It's still loading, it's still going to climb quite a bit. That's because it's loading every articulation that's on that patch, so it's ready to go. So you can click between the different articulations and seamlessly play an instrument. That is important for key switching, but if you just want to load up one articulation and only use that articulation, if you're like me, for example, where you use separate tracks for separate articulations, this next feature will be fantastic for you. So Eco Load isn't on by default, but if you jump into the settings and you jump into interface and go all the way to the bottom, you can enable Eco Load. Let's turn that on. I'll save it, and I'll make sure I select something like low spiccato. That's the string sound that I want. Now though, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to refresh and have a look what happens to my memory. Jump straight the way down to 810. Let's pick a different one. Let's just pick the longs, for example, and let's reload again. 497 megabytes. This is fantastic because what it's doing is every time you refresh it, it's just dumping all the samples that it doesn't need off the RAM and allowing only that articulation that you've got selected to be there. A huge space saver on your RAM. With that mode saved as well, when you reload your session next time, you're not going to sit there for hours waiting for it to load up, which is what I kept finding. I did a whole demo track and it was something like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 tracks. It was like a lot of different tracks. And to load that one up took forever. Now, as I mentioned, key switching does make use of different articulations and you change those articulations based on the keys that you're tapping. So I'm not entirely sure how it would go with that, because the downside, of course, of this is if you want to flick over to the next articulation, you've got to wait for a moment for it to load up. You can't just be playing the notes and then click it and immediately hear the notes of the next articulation. So if you're looking there, you can see my fingers tapping the keys constantly, but the sound didn't change automatically as soon as I flicked to different articulations because it takes a moment to load. Think about whether that might work in your workflow. And if you find yourself taking forever to load up sessions after you've saved them when you're reopening them at the beginning of the day, this could definitely be the answer for that. I'm excited to hopefully see this across lots of Spitfire instruments. I'm looking at you, BBC Orchestra. I really want that feature in BBC Orchestra. So I hope that they do that. I hope this is the start of something new. So check out the Spitfire Audio app. There should be the update sitting there ready for you to download right now. See what you think, and why don't you let me know what you think in the comments below? That would be fantastic. If you like this video, why not give it a thumbs up? That would mean a huge amount for me. And feel free to subscribe as well for more videos like these or handy tutorials or other musical adventures. But for now, enjoy your day, enjoy the update, and I will catch you in the next one.